It's been nearly a decade since the last episode of Hunter x Hunter aired, exactly on September 24th, 2014, and since then we have received from our Lord and Savior Togashi some chapters of the manga. The thing is, the Hunter x Hunter manga has been on and off hiatus, making this one of the longest manga hiatuses on this entire damn earth, and since then there is only about 61 chapters, so let's talk about these chapters in this video. Also, this is a very heavy spoiler video, so I don't recommend watching it if you haven't read the manga, although you should have read it by now because this current arc is shaping to be one of the best arcs in the whole series. The first arc of the two that we are gonna talk about is the Dark Continent arc, spanning from chapter 340 to chapter 348, going by the Hunter x Hunter fan wiki, so if you have a problem with this naming, don't add me, add the people who wrote this on the wiki. Anyway, since Gon has sacrificed his Nan in the Chimera Ant arc, the story kinda left him there, and the same deal with Killua, although he still has his Nan, so Togashi could potentially whip him out and put him in the story again, but we haven't seen a sight of Killua since the end of the anime. Right after the anime, in chapter 340, we got announced the expedition, which we haven't gotten to that point yet, where we land on the actual continent. We are still on the boat, but I'm going far too ahead now. In this chapter, we also got to see Netoro's son, Beyond Netoro, who has been hired by the Kakin Empire. Jing and Periston for some reason were requested to leave the Zodiacs. Not only that, the Zodiacs received a special mission from V5 to hunt down Beyond Netoro. We also got to see some specimens from the Dark Continent, like this one guy who has been self-sustaining himself for almost 50 years and is unable to die. He used to be a hunter who went to the New World, as they like to call the Dark Continent. The Zodiacs also watched the DVD left by Netoro that they were supposed to watch after Netoro's passing, which they did. In the video, Netoro requested the Zodiacs to explore the Dark Continent before his son would. Weirdly enough, Beyond Netoro turned himself in for the Zodiacs. After that, we got a short presentation talking about the expedition of the Dark Continent. The Zodiacs also had a short talk with Beyond. After that, Laurel got invited to become one of the Zodiacs, which he denied at first and recommended Kurapika instead. The cow guy from the Hunter Association, I forgot his name, sorry, approaches Kurapika in order to invite him to the Dark Continent expedition, which he refuses. Then the cow guy mentions that they have identified the owner of the Crimson Eyes, which catches Kurapika's attention and decides to join in the expedition. We also got to see Gon, who was unable to make any aura, since in the anime he sacrificed his Nen in order to transform in his adult form. After some talking business that almost made me fall asleep, we got to see Leorio and Kurapika reunited. Afterwards, we got to know more about some of the older Dark Continent expeditions and why they failed. Apparently, there's also spy in the Zodiacs, but we don't know that for sure yet. Jing and Periston were making a deal with some people, which turned into a huge fight between them, that both Jing and Periston won. In the fight, Jing copied Leorio's attack that he used on Jing in the election. After that, we got Kurapika using his Nen ability in order to detect lies from potential spies if they had known about the Dark Continent expedition. Moving on to the second arc that we have here is the Succession War arc, and if finished, this might be in the top 3 arcs in the whole series. The Succession War begins, and the only participants are King's legal children, and the only survivor will be the official successor to the throne. Already exciting, right? The princess, because all of them are called princess regardless of their gender, are supposed to put their hand in the spot that gives them a special power, a Nen beast. After that, we got to see Kurapika carefully using his ability to know if the Zodiacs who are explaining their ability, if they are lying or not. In chapter 350, we got to see the very young prince that Kurapika is gonna be protecting in this arc. In the next chapter, 351, we got a long-awaited fight between Chrollo and Hisoka. In this fight, Chrollo uses his ability to control the judge of the battle to fight alongside him. This fight was actually pretty crazy and is probably in the top 10 best fights in Hunter x Hunter. In this fight, Chrollo explained his Nen ability and how he can use his book, but no matter how many times I read it, I can't properly understand it, but that's because I have a brain rot. The battle continues, and Hisoka goes chasing after Chrollo in the stands where the crowd is. Chrollo though uses his ability to control the crowd and makes them attack Hisoka. Hisoka is fighting the crowd like crazy, but it isn't going quite in his favor. Hisoka though uses a head of one of the crowd members under Chrollo's control and uses bungee gum to use his head like a mace against Chrollo and his puppets. This whole fight was pretty crazy, but due to Chrollo's puppets being able to explode, Hisoka lost to Chrollo. After the fight, Machi was gonna give Hisoka treatment, not that it really matters since Hisoka is a goner now, but wait a minute, Hisoka after death somehow managed to use aura to give himself a heart massage and to revive himself. He also uses bungee gum and texture surprise to quote-unquote fix himself from the explosion damage. Hisoka though does the unthinkable and kills Machi and Shalnark in order to challenge the entire Phantom Troop. Pretty crazy, right? After that, in chapter 358, we finally take off on the giant ship on the Dark Continent. After Kurapika calls Mizai the cow guy, Kurapika noticed something in the prince's chair, although when he turned around, there was nothing to be seen. Interesting. In the next chapter, chapter 359, we finally depart to the Dark Continent. One of the bodyguards that's with Kurapika has been found dead in the bathrooms, which raises a couple of questions like what happened. It turned out that his blood was sucked dry by an ability. It also turned out that the bodyguards didn't know about the succession battle. After that, one of the princes tries to make a deal with another prince to work together, so we already got some master scheming over here. It also turned out that more bodyguards have been killed, so Kurapika takes on the challenge and tries to figure out who's done it. It turned out that some of the bodyguards knew about the succession, and some even confessed that they weren't necessarily on the prince's side. There also appears to be a Nen beast with them. One of the bodyguards seemed to be controlled by one of the Nen beasts, and he killed some more of bodyguards. The controlled bodyguard attacks Kurapika, but Kurapika quickly defeats him. Kurapika then uses his Nen chain to temporarily steal the bodyguard's Nen ability. One of the princes also withdraws from the succession. In chapter 363, Kurapika and the only other remaining bodyguard were approached by Assassin. The Assassin though makes an offer to cooperate with Kurapika, but Kurapika declines it. They defeat the Assassin pretty quickly, but then the Assassin eats a suicide pill. After that, they get a call from 3 princes at once, and they have to decide which prince's call to take first. Kurapika picks up a call from the 3rd prince over Prince 1 and 5. The 3rd prince, Zangle, wants some information on Nen from Kurapika. After the call, they try to connect to the 1st prince, but that call has been disconnected already, so they connected to the 5th prince instead. They meet up with the 3rd prince and Kurapika explains Nen to him. The 4th prince though, who is being taught Nen from his bodyguard, is learning Nen very quickly, so much that he is considered a genius by the bodyguard that teaches him. After a short talk with the 3rd prince, he offers 2 bodyguards to aid Kurapika since they are short-staffed from the Nen beast's attack. In chapter 367, Kurapika and the other bodyguards had to take care of a cockroach for some reason, so they did. They disposed of the roach using Nen to showcase it to the other bodyguards. But in reality, the roach was being manipulated by the queen, the mother of the 14th prince. Using the roach, the queen of the 14th prince manipulated it into the room of the 12th prince, and she saw that someone was choking the 12th prince, which made her jump off her seat and go to the prince and save her. Kurapika tried to stop the queen, but she wouldn't budge and went after the prince anyway. But they were already too late and the prince has already been killed. In chapter 370, we got Kurapika explaining Nen to the crowd of bodyguards in order to force a stalemate between the princes. One of the bodyguards though has been killed by this mysterious person. After that, one of the bodyguards has been falsely arrested since he made a commotion when he pointed out the mysterious figure, but he was the only one that could see it. Anyway, Kurapika continues the Nen training to the bodyguards. In this chapter, we also got to see Phantom Troop on the ship. After that, the 2nd Prince Kamala makes an offer to one of the 1st Princess Benjamin's bodyguard to either help her kill the 1st prince or just die. The bodyguard doesn't take this lightly and shoots Prince Camilla 3 times. He didn't manage to kill her though, as her Nen beast that activates after death kills the bodyguard and revives the prince. She then met up with her bodyguards and after that, she left her room and bumps into more of the 1st Prince's guards. The 1st Prince Benjamin tells them to let her through, although before that, Kamala shoots 2 of the bodyguards and kills one in the process. Prince Benjamin orders his troops to arrest the 2nd Prince Camilla, which they did. Hanzo is still looking for his body since before he used his doppelganger technique, which lets him separate from his main body. After that, we got Kurapika trying to figure out what happened to the 13th prince, because they cannot be found in their room, although when he goes to the room 1013, one of the 13th prince's bodyguards picks up the phone, so the room is probably under control of someone's non-ability. Kurapika tries to make a deal with him, although that doesn't really go in his favor. Kurapika then speculates that this might be an act of defense from the princess Nen beast. In this chapter, a coin in the 3rd prince's room dropped out of nowhere. I guess we'll see what's the coin about later. Hanzo finally woke up in his body, and he with Biscuit confronted the bodyguard that Kurapika had a phone call with just before this about Nen, which he asks them later to teach him about Nen. One of the bodyguards left the room to test out why no one can get into the actual room with them, but then everyone for him in the room disappeared, so if you leave the room you can't normally get back in. After that, we got the 2nd Prince Camilla at the court. This arc is actually getting pretty heated, huh? Going back to Kurapika, things are getting more out of hand for him, as the bodyguards who are being taught to Kurapika about Nen are getting suspicious of him and think that he lured them in order to take them out one by one. We also got the 10th prince and Melody having a discussion about Prince's studies, and the prince sent Melody a Morse code to retrieve an object in the kitchen. After that, we come back to the 4th prince to learning Nen, and something interesting happened, but his cup that shows whenever he's conjurer, enhancer and so on and so forth. The cup looked very weird, so weird that in fact that his teacher had never seen it before, which probably makes him a specialist. We get back to the Phantom Troop talking about where Hisoka might be. Illumi also joined the spiders on Hisoka's commission, and they split up in order to find him. In chapter 380, we got the cow guy explaining recent murders in the first tier of the ship. In the next chapter, the cow guy had a talk with the 11th prince as to why he is in tier 3 of the ship, which he responds to with, "I'll only talk to the 10th prince." After that, we got to see one of the 8th prince guards disposing of the princess Nen Beast. In the next chapter, we got the 9th prince confront his father, the king. He tries to shoot the king, but the bullet stopped right in front of his face. The prince then tried to shoot himself, but the Nen Beast stopped the bullet as well. At the end of this chapter, we can see the 8th prince dead. Next, we got a Sunday banquet on the ship. We got to see some performances including Melody on the flute. In this chapter, the 10th and 11th prince were about to leave the ship in emergency boats, but there is a punishment for leaving the ship, although they managed to escape the punishment and get back onto the ship. After that, we get back to the Phantom Troop still looking for Hisoka. Next, we have more training with the 4th prince, who is learning Nen very fast. The bodyguard has attempted to kill the 4th prince, but he was somehow able to escape the shot. The princess Nen Beast has marked her for her first lie to the prince. Kurapika's Nen training continues, and they get to the part where they figure out their Nen type. The 4th prince's training also continues, and it seems that the prince was able to see the future for a moment, which explains how he was able to escape the bullet from the bodyguard, which he saw previously in chapter 385. It seems that when the 4th prince closes his eyes and achieves Zetsu, he gets a vision of the future, which is very interesting. This is going kind of back and forth, but we jump back to Kurapika again, where he uses his Nen ability in order to borrow one of the other bodyguard's ability and gives it to the other bodyguard in order to force open his aura. After that, the 9th prince has been arrested and will be facing a trial. In chapter 390, we finally get more action between some mafia families and regular people that appeared, and the fight continues to chapter 391. Also, before that, the mafia were ordered to search for Hisoka and kill Murana Prudo, the boss of Haley Mafia. The search for Hisoka continues, and it seems like they found him, but it looks like it's gonna be very rough on them. One other guy appears at the Phantom Troop and offers them to crush one of the mafias, then to kill the royal family, and then to destroy the whole world. Phantom Troop doesn't take this guy seriously, and Nobunaga kills him. After that, Nobunaga says that they are gonna destroy the mafia Haley by themselves. One of the mafia guys that are after Hisoka approaches him in the cinema and tells him to go to the tier 1 of the ship, which Hisoka asks why, and the mafia guy tells Hisoka that Char of Mafia and Phantom Troop joined forces against Haley. After that, the Kaken army were searching a room of some old guy, and one of the mafia guys was also there. He throws a knife at the old guy's leg, but he doesn't bleed and disappears instead. In this chapter, we also got the Kaken army to search through multiple rooms, but they seem to not find anything as they are trying to find the Haley leader. In the next chapter, chapter 395, we also got a flashback of the Phantom Troop when they were kids in the Meteor City, of how they met up and created the Phantom Troop. Next, in chapter 398, the search with the other mafia guy and Phantom Troop continues as they are still unsuccessful. After that, the Phantom Troop got into a fight with some guys, but they managed to escape since it was getting pretty heated for them. Alright, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching till the end. If you enjoyed, definitely hit the like button and maybe even subscribe as well. Definitely helps the channel. Have a nice rest of the day, and until next time, see ya later.